Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the official press conference following the first day of the Justice and Home Affairs Council. It is my pleasure to introduce the Danish Minister for Immigration and Integration, Mr. Rasmus Stoklund, and Commissioner for Internal Affairs and Migration, Mr. Magnus Brunner. We will start with statements from the Minister and then the Commissioner, and then we'll open the floor for questions. Minister, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fabricius. And I will already now tell you that I have a rather long statement because we have taken so many important decisions today, so now you're prepared. The European asylum system is in many ways dysfunctional. On the one hand, we have a very high influx of irregular migrants and our countries are under pressure. Thousands are drowning in the Mediterranean or are abused along the migratory routes while human smugglers earn fortunes. About half of all first-instance asylum decisions in the EU are rejections. This shows that the current system creates unhealthy incentive structures and a strong pull factor, which are hard to break. On the other hand, we still don't have a fully effective return system. This challenges the social cohesion as well as the security situation in our societies. For many years, Denmark has taken a lead in Europe in exploring new and innovative solutions. European sentiment has changed tremendously over the past few years. It has done so because we, the Member States and the European Commission, have accepted the responsibility to address these issues. We must deliver on this for the people of Europe. The question is not for or against migration. Migration is a part of human history and will continue to be so. The question is how we manage migration in a fair and humane way. Migration has been at the top of the agenda for the Danish presidency, and we have had high ambitions. Today, we are taking decisive steps to solve the problems our continent faces. I'm happy and relieved that we succeeded, and we have taken steps in close collaboration with the Commission and our Commissioner, Magnus Brunner. And I would like to say to you, Magnus, thank you very much, and thank you also for the close collaboration between the two of us during the presidency. I've really appreciated your big efforts and energy and ambitions on this important work. Let me explain what we have agreed upon in 4 very important headlines. First of all, since 2019, Denmark has been advocating for agreements with safe third countries to move asylum processing outside the EU. We have increasingly seen that other member states are also interested in the possibility to conclude agreements or arrangements with third countries to facilitate asylum processing outside the EU. Current EU rules have created some legal obstacles for this ambition. It has been a key priority for me and the Danish presidency to overcome these obstacles. And today I'm very happy to announce that we have agreed on an amendment of the concept of a safe third country, which will render the connection requirement optional and allow member states to make agreements or arrangements with safe countries outside the EU. This represents an important opportunity for the EU to deepen cooperation and responsibility sharing with partner countries. Such agreements can also help remove the incentives for people to embark on the dangerous journeys towards Europe, hopefully leading to a decrease in irregular migration reaching our shores. Today's agreement means that we are closer to realizing safe third country arrangements. This marks a significant step forward for the EU asylum policy. Secondly, to gain control of the migration to the EU is one important pillar. But another important pillar is to make sure that the migrants with no right to stay in the EU actually are returned. 3 in 4 irregular migrants who have been issued a return decision in the EU continue to stay here instead of returning home. I believe this is a completely unacceptable situation, and it threatens not only the security of our Union, but also the social cohesion and the credibility of the European institutions in the eyes of the European citizens. Today, we have also agreed on a new EU return regulation, equipping the Union and Member States with the necessary tools to effectively return third country nationals with no right to stay. It includes obligations for legally staying third country nationals to cooperate with authorities on their return and the possibility of longer entry bans and detention periods. It also includes ability for EU member states to cooperate with countries outside the EU on return hubs. I'm delighted that we, with today's agreement, will make it possible for both the European Union and one or more member states to make an arrangement or agreement with the third country on return hubs. Furthermore, a new EU return order will facilitate the exchange of information necessary to recognize other member states' return decision. I believe the new set of tools can facilitate the return from the EU I believe the new set of tools can facilitate the return from the EU of those who have no right to be here, as well as contribute to deter irregular migration and discourage unauthorized secondary movements. Thirdly, each year tens of thousands arrive to Europe and apply for asylum even though they depart from safe countries. Safe countries where there is generally no risk of persecution. Today we have also agreed on the first ever EU list of safe countries of origin, an important milestone for the EU's asylum policy. Last year, more than 43,000 from Bangladesh applied for asylum in the EU, a very low percentage, about 4% of all asylum applications to the EU actually needed protection. Bangladesh is one of the countries on the list of safe countries of origin, and the list will help us to create faster and more efficient asylum processing so that we have a better opportunity to return migrants without a need for protection. Finally, last year we agreed on the Pact on Migration and Asylum. As a whole, the pact will reduce illegal migration to the EU and reduce secondary movements within the EU. Today we have reached an agreement on the so-called solidarity pool, which is part of the pact and a tool to help member states under the most pressure. I know many countries have made compromises, and I would like to acknowledge and thank my colleagues for their collaboration. Today we've stood together and agreed on new solutions to tackle the challenges I mentioned in the beginning. A very high influx of irregular migrants and a broken return system, where the majority of migrants who have been issued a return decision in the EU actually are staying in Europe. Today also marks my final day as chair for the Justice and Home Affairs Council. I'm very proud of our results during the Danish presidency, and for many years we've been fighting for new solutions to remove the incentives to embark on dangerous journeys to the EU and put an end to the irregular arrivals to the EU. Today we have taken decisive steps towards gaining control of the migration to the EU. Thank you to my colleagues from the member states, and thank you again, Magnus. Without you, today's result wouldn't have been possible. Thank you, Magnus.
Thank you, Minister. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much, and let me also start with saying thank you to you, Rasmus, and to the Danish presidency all together. You can really be proud of what you have achieved in this last 6 months. You have more than lived up the ambition. Actually, you set yourself at the start of the presidency, and so it was quite fair that your speech was a bit longer, because what you've achieved in the last 6 months was really incredible. And thanks for the very good cooperation we had in the last months, but I'm sure we will have also in the next months to come. And it has just been over 1 year since the new Commission took office, and together with the member states, and now especially with you, we are driving forward actually the biggest reform in asylum and migration of our whole migration and asylum system. It's a sort of turning point of our asylum and migration policy, and we see the positive impact already. The numbers are going down. Illegal arrivals down by 35% in the last year alone. So our first task was to, together with the member states, bring our European house in order, to do our homework within Europe, And we have delivered as a Commission, and today also the Member States, implementing new rules. You mentioned them under the Migration Pact by launching the first annual migration management cycle, for instance, rolling out the entry-exit system, very successful so far. Almost 10 million people have been registered already. But also new rules and strong new rules on returns, which we delivered in the first 100 days. Also front-loading some elements of the pact, like the safe third country concept and the safe country of origin list. And today, with the agreements in the Council, Member States have done the same, which is really good and really quick, actually. Thank you very much for that. So the first solidarity pool can actually start operating as of next year. That's very good news, because it's a very essential part of the pact, of course. And we will now be able to start negotiations with the European Parliament on the new rules on returns, on safe third country concept, and European list of safe country of origin. And all measures that will, these are all measures that will help us also to process claims more effectively and also reduce the pressure on our asylum systems. So we are showing today that Europe can actually deliver, and we delivered quite a lot, I would say, today. These reforms, and putting the European house in order, as I said, and these reforms we agreed on today are the basis for having, I would say, a migration policy in place in the interest of the Europeans. That is important, ensuring that we are in control of who can come to the European Union, who can stay, and who has to leave the European Union again. And then we, I think, also must step up with our migration diplomacy and must engage more with our partner countries to ensure that this actually works. So this external dimension is really key, where we set the basis also today with safe country of origin, safe third country. That is important. And also in the external dimension, I think we have to take a sort of Team Europe approach also, everyone together, putting migration on the table when it comes to all different policy files. We see this in trade, for instance, where we will withdraw trade benefits when countries do not cooperate on readmission of their own nationals. Or in our agreement today, actually, when we didn't talk about that, on the talent pool also, which facilitates international recruitment in sectors where member states actually experience shortages, or with our visa strategy, which we are going to present in next year, beginning of next year, addressing our comprehensive approach on migration. And then we have our global alliance. Everyone is invited, or you are invited, for Wednesday, our global alliance to counter migrant smuggling, which we, as I said, are hosting on Wednesday here in Brussels with more than 80 delegations from 5 continents. So we see that how important it is on a worldwide basis. So when you look at migration policy in the European Union, we are getting actually things done, thanks to you also in this half year. Maybe just a few words on some other topics we were talking about today. Of course, migration with the new rules with the migration reform also was in the center of our talks. But we also talked about drugs trafficking, drones. I was able to present our drug strategy and our action plan with the ministers, because when it comes to illegal drugs, Europe is reaching a sort of a crisis point, and we must fight back there as well. And we do that with our strategy, with our action plan, which I was happy to present today. And then there were some other topics, of course, as well, like drones and other things. But of course, in the center, it was the migration reform, the turning point of migration and asylum policy in the European Union. So thanks very much again, Rasmus, for great cooperation for all the things you delivered in these 6 months. So enjoy Christmas afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll start by giving the floor. And maybe I should start to add by, if you please would start by stating your name and the media. And we will start by the gentleman here from Euronews.
Thank you very much, Vincenzo Genovese from Euronews. Good evening. First question is to Commissioner Brunner. The Council today reduced the threshold that the Commission has to propose about the solidarity pool, so 30,000 relocation and 600 million of financial compensation. Do you think this could happen also in the future? Because this year, this was motivated for the fact that the pact will apply only from June, but in a regular year, do you think that the Council will again reduce the amount? And then another thing, maybe to you both, the return regulation basically would allow EU countries to return people who have no right to stay in Europe, also in third countries. The change of the safe third country would do the same with asylum seekers. So do you consider this is a fair and equal way of managing migration, considering that people could end up in totally random countries around the world? Thank you very much.
Commissioner?
Maybe to the first question, it's the Commission which proposes, but of course it's the Council to decide. And we have an assessment every year, of course, and there we assess what the situation is like in all different member states, of course. And then we have a proposal to the Council, and the Council then decides on the numbers and on the figures and on the whole solidarity part altogether. So it's a sort of global responsibility, and I think we delivered on that today, which is great news, of course. Second question was on returns.
I can say something about that. Well, first of all, I think the reason why we have a problem with controlling migration to Europe is that we have a malfunctioning asylum system. That means that today the access to Europe is controlled not by the European countries and the European democracies and the European Union, but the access to Europe is controlled by human smugglers, organized criminals. And we need to change that, and in order to do that, we also need to change the incentive structure. And we do that by making the member states able to make these return hubs, because the incentive to pay a human smuggler for getting you access to Europe will diminish if you know that as soon as you arrive in the EU member state, you will be returned to a return center in a third country. And that is why we want to have this tool in the toolbox of the member states, and why we've made this decision today. And I think that's important, and a very important structural change, which has the possibility of impacting Europe drastically the coming years, and fundamentally change the way we view migration, because we can get migration under control. And to the aspect of, is it fair, how will people be treated, and so on, there's no change compared to today, in the sense that today we are obliged to respect human rights, and we will be that in the future as well. If we send someone to a return center, we will be responsible for respecting their human rights, and we will be succumb to the same international obligations as we are today.
Alex Maxia from a Swedish newspaper, Göteborgs-Posten. I was wondering about the definition of safe countries. Who decides on that definition? And some of the countries mentioned in the list are not the most friendly for journalists, for example? They are on the red list of Reporters Without Borders in terms of press freedom. Is there a risk that sending people to these safe countries, that they could end up in trouble, and that it would be ultimately the European countries sending them there as responsibility for that?
If I may start, there was a very close assessment of this. You're talking about the safe countries of origin, I remember, because there's the list. There was a very close assessment by the European Union Asylum Agency, who assessed it very closely, advantages, disadvantages, and then made a proposal. So we didn't decide just the two of us, but that was, of course, assessed in a very professional way. Also, IOM, UNHCR are looking into it, of course, so this assessment is really very strong, and I can assure you that we really looked into that all together, but especially the international organizations and the experts.
And I would also add that, just complementing what Magnus said, that this doesn't mean that you aren't able at all to get asylum if you come from one of these countries. It just means that when we know that from these countries it's a very, very low percentage that is actually given an asylum, then there is a possibility of making this new procedure, which is more efficient and which means that we won't spend enormous resources on a relatively low number of people that don't have a need for protection, instead of spending these resources out in the world where people are in dire need of protection in refugee camps and so on. I think also in this aspect, this initiative is a more humane approach to handling people in need than the current situation.
More humane and more effective and efficient, and because it's still, of course, it's still an individual assessment also for each person. But if you're from a safe country of origin, then of course the whole procedure can be quicker, because, as you said, the numbers were low already, so it makes it more efficient.
Time is running fast. How many questions do we have in the room? Already 3. Anna, please.
Thank you, Anna Buch from La Vanguardia. Commissioner, Prime Minister Orban has already said that he does not intend to accept the solidarity tool. There are also 6 countries that are eligible for deductions. So how are you going to really assure that the relocations will be implemented? Thank you.
Well, first of all, the member states agreed on the pact first, and then today on the solidarity part, so on the solidarity cycle. So I'm very happy about that. So we see that the member states want to have a shift in migration policy. Hungary, I'm sad in a way that Hungary doesn't support it, because the pact would, of course, improve the whole situation for all member states in the European Union. But of course, when it comes to solidarity is flexible on the one hand, but mandatory on the other hand. So that's pretty easy to answer in a way. I think it's an advantage for all member states. It's an opportunity to make our whole migration and asylum system more effective, more efficient, faster, fair and firm. Of course, we always have to be fair as well, but it will improve the situation. And that's why all member states, most of the member states, are happy with it and are going in the same direction, which is great, and which we saw today on the deliveries we saw in the Council.
Mattia.
Yes, hi, Mattia Bagnoli, ANSA, the National Italian News Agency. I want to ask you a broader question because in the famous national security document that the US published, there is a reference to, more than one actually, but there is a reference on European migration. And it is said that some countries in 20 years may be ethnically un-European or less European, and so maybe not reliable as an ally. I was wondering if you share that assessment, that the risk is that high, and so this is one of the reasons that the EU has to intervene so strongly. Thank you.
Well, first of all, I would say I don't share this topic view on the future of Europe. I would say that I think our colleagues among the member states in the Council today confirmed that there's a willingness among the member states to bend towards each other and find compromises and find common solutions that enable us to have migration under control and get control back to the member states instead of letting human smugglers and organized criminals control the access to Europe. That is why we have taken these decisive steps today. It hasn't been easy to get this long, but I'm certain that what we have paved the way for today is a fundamental change when it comes to migration to Europe, and I am sure, I feel secure that this is also what is expected from our populations. I think it's extremely important for the social cohesion of the European Union and the member states themselves that the populations can trust that their politicians take these challenges serious and that they face them and find solutions together so we are enabled to control who gets access to Europe. And for that reason, I'm a little more optimistic than the perspective you presented. Apart from that, that this was not a direct comment on any report or anything. It was just trying to answering the perspective you presented.
Yeah, and we just have to do our homework as a European Union, and that's why we delivered this big reform, very big reform on migration and asylum, this shift in migration policy which started a year ago or even more than a year ago, and where we delivered today. It's about delivering. We take it seriously, as you mentioned, Rasmus, and we just have to do our homework to bring our European house in order. That's what we are doing, focusing on our challenges, and I think today is a very good day, which shows that we can deliver as a European Union.
We have time for one last question. Please, the gentleman there.
Thank you very much, Roland Papid Nipsava. I would like to go back to Hungary and from the Council. Do you think it undermines the solidarity that Prime Minister Orban already said that he will not implement this? And to the Commission, I mean, yes, you said it, that you're sad, but at the end of the day, the Commission, it's the Commission task to make sure that these rules are enforced. So how can you make this happen? Is it through infringement, which might take many years, which does take many years? And we know that Hungary doesn't implement even the ECJ ruling. So how exactly can you make Hungary comply in a fast way? Is there any way how you can make Hungary pay or comply faster? Thank you.
Commissioner, please.
Well, first of all, I was happy to see today that Hungary agreed with 50% of the things we delivered. I think they were in favor of some of the returns, for instance, and so that's the positive thing. The pact, of course, is binding. Of course, the European Union has agreed on the pact. The pact is binding to all member states, and also that's what I said before. Everyone benefits from this big reform. And as I said before, solidarity is flexible. It's mandatory. So yes, of course, member states can, well, first of all, can choose how they contribute. And on the other hand, then of course there are rules, and rules are rules. So of course the Commission, as a guardian of the treaty, will have to do everything to that the member states comply with the rules. Yeah, pretty obvious. So it's quite a normal thing. You have to comply with the rules. That's it.
I don't have that much more to add than what Magnus already said, and I would just say that I think some of the decisions that we've taken today cannot be evaluated or judged individually. They need to be seen together. They balance each other, and when we adopt the solidarity concept, it has to do with that we at the same time have taken these decisive steps when it comes to return, safe countries of origin, and so on. All the decisions made today that will enable the European Union member states to be able to control who gets access to their countries. And that is the other side of the coin, and that is what balance that we have the solidarity part as well.
This concludes the press conference. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.